as a guest author here. We have photos up here, so at the end of tonight, if you'd like to just, I don't know, she just had a radiant smile, so if you'd like to stop up, or if you have any questions for any of us about her afterwards, we'd be happy to talk to you. So last week, a friend and fellow author, Cappy Love Hanson, passed away. Cappy was involved in the Cochise Creative Writing Celebration since its beginning. She helped bring published authors and publishers to Cochise County, and in recent years she attended the celebration as a writer. She also worked as an editor for the Cochise College Mirage Literary and Arts magazine. Author Henry James wrote, "There's 3 things in human life are important. The first is to be kind. The second is to be kind. And the third is to be kind." Cappy was a talented, accomplished writer and a true friend to many of us here tonight. But most importantly, she was kind.
And she was here less than a year ago. If you remember, she read a short story about her parakeets.
Yes. This past week, I've heard from so many people who knew Cappy as an author, and one of the things that struck me most during these conversations was how often people mentioned her kindness. That's a blessed trait in which to be remembered. Tonight, in honor of Cappy, a few who've had the privilege to call her our friend would like to share some of her poems. Cappy's use of imagery and her ability to evoke emotion in her readers was her trademark. Since this has been a week of recounting our memories, I would like to share a poem of one of her childhood memories. And this poem is called Splinter. My mother sits me backward on the black piano bench, perches, one stockinged ankle locked behind the opposite knee. She tilts the floor lamp close, hooks her waist-length gypsy dark hair behind her ears, leans forward to decipher the further inscribed, future inscribed on my palm when I was still curled inside her, lifeline, long, love line, broken, and the immediate past inscribed by a half-inch filament of splinter. She possesses such a steady touch at counted cross-stitch, at the finest crocheted pillow shams, that I'm alarmed to see the magnifier vibrate in her left hand, the needle in her right. Her brows darned together, her lips incanting, silent, subtle, and I realize she's praying. My mother, ultimate power in my 4-year-old life, begging something greater still, some divine, invisible, for painless extraction, praying for the autonomous heart outside her body. And something in me that is neither flesh nor blood nor fragment of the front porch rises up with instinctive winged faith to meet that suddenly steadied steel point. I'd like to invite other friends of Cappy who would like to come up and share one of her poems. So, Ross, would you like to start?
I don't know if I'd like to, but I will.
And this is going to be as hard for me as it was for Beth, maybe harder. Cappy was probably my best friend and an inspiration.
Beth mentioned that she was very actively involved in the Creative Writing Celebration. She was also a force to be reckoned with in the contest. There were times, I think, when she swept an entire category, all 3 prizes, or should win prize in this category, then that category, and maybe all three categories. So for those of you who are thinking about entering, this may not seem like a very nice thing, but I'm saying it tongue in cheek. The competition will not be as stiff this year. Cappy also entered the Writer's Digest contest, at least one. And in 2009, she placed third in the non-rhyming poetry category. I tried to find that poem. I thought that would be the perfect one to read tonight. A friend of mine in the back tells me I did and didn't know it. Great. But I didn't find it consciously. So what I have here are a couple of her other poems from around that time. And this will give you an example, a couple of examples of the strength and power of her work, if I can get through them. The first one is called Life on the Fireline of Love. The firestorm roars over us, crisps our eyebrows, leaves our hair singed and ashy, our breath gassy hisses, our words the snap and pop of exploding sap. Ours is a found language, tongued by flame, by hearts too long suppressed at the first spiral of smoke. This is how it is out here on the fireline of love. No smoke jumpers parachuting in to save us, no tanker drops, no earth movers clearing brush. Official policy allows anything to burn that starts by acts of nature. Let it consume the accumulated kindling, leave less for the next lightning strike. Just when we think we have it contained, the blaze leaps the fire break, makes a run up a slope tinder dry from years of drought, mushroom smoke to 20,000 feet. Leaves our lungs sucking superheated air, leaves us sleeping on the ground like fire kickers, soot smudged, setting back fires, not going home anytime soon. This next one is a bit less emotional. It's called Chubasco. The gale uncoils like a sidewinder, marking dunes with scimitar undulations, all windy ribs and muscle and bean pod lungs. Pokes its diamond-white head through the portal of stillness, swings it like saloon doors as it slithers through. Flicks its forked tongue out to taste. Drives eagles to ground ahead of it, sand grains like terrified prey. This much mechanics we understand. High pressure snaking into low. Hot air towers, cold plummets. But the ferocious-faced Chubasco is reptilian. That antique portion of our brain still sense it like organs embedded in the roofs of our scaly mouths. The wind that loves the world so much sucks it dry, never glances back, trusts its clattering tail to the final parching of dust and leaves, of eyes of those who edge out of bricks and mortar caves to test the air with desiccated skin.
I didn't know Cappy for as long as other people did, but every year at Tuscany Science Fiction Convention, she was my roommate. And one of the highlights of the convention for me was going to the open mic reading and getting to hear her read her work. But, I'd be like in bed at like 10 o'clock at night, I'm like, I am done. And she'd be like, there's a thing at 1 a.m. I want to go to. And I'm like, okay, just come in quietly. Her enthusiasm was boundless, and her writing was wonderful. And if you have not read Love, Life with Parrots, it's a wonderful memoir, and you can get it on Amazon as a Kindle book for $2.99. It'll be like the best $2.99 you ever spent. Please read it. I think you'll get a sense from this poem about the kind of memories that she shares, because she had this incredible ability to experience life fully, which so many of us don't have, and I wish I did. Freshman Fall by Cappy Love Hanson. Sun sets blood orange, and a blood orange moon lurches up to replace it. Dry lightning moon, smoke-smeared moon, moon of wildfire harvesting the coast range with its flaming blade. Day and night, the sky's the color of the we swirl in plastic glasses in our girls-only college dorm. Orange juice snuck up from the dining commons, cherry liqueur bought by somebody's drinking-age boyfriend, secreted in a suitcase shoved in the back of a closet. 9 at night, the power out, flashlights dimmed to nimbuses or nothing, when flames rear over the ridge across the valley. In trance, we sit and stare from balconies as swirls in the white, cool deck tattoo our shaved calves, and stucco stipples our backs. Too hot to sleep, windows wide to any breath of breeze, but letting in only a sift of soot. Trying not to knuckle teary eyes, we swig our tart sweet concoction till our heads seem to lift moon-like in the ashy air, and we imagine our building from inebriated heights, roof rouged burnt orange, palms and flax and bougainvilleas inert in the roasting air. We can hear the blaze roar now, drunk on chaparral and wildflowers, driving deer and grasshoppers with its searing whips, shooting birds out of the oaks like bullets. With crackling howls it bellows, flames and sparks and embers bigger than our fists. Firestorms spin the inferno into twisters as we swizzle our ruddy drink, hoist our glasses, toast higher education, and slide the liquid down our roughened throats, the anesthetizing blood of our new and frightening collegiate lives.
So, I've known Cappy. I've known Cappy for well over 20 years. I'm not sure if I'm going to do any better than Ross or Beth did emotionally. I first met her when she stepped into a creative writing class I was teaching. A woman in her 50s surrounded by a sea of 19-year-olds, and she was perfectly comfortable with the situation. She was a wonderful critic, and her talent evidenced itself almost immediately. Ross and Beth are right that talent, her Cappy's kindness can't be understated, but neither can her talent. I'm hoping somewhere someone has a file folder with every poem she ever wrote, because she was quite a fine artist. Anyway, since I heard the news last week, I've been thumbing through some of her poetry, a lot of which she published in Mirage magazine, in which she was the administrative editor for many years. I worked with her side by side with her as we produced a number of these magazines, and she was unbelievable. Boy, she was a peacemaker. She could settle fights with just a quip. And she never, I can't remember one time that Cappy ever went crossways with anyone. I don't think anyone in here who knew her ever would remember that. Anyway, I found this poem, though I think it may be a little bit edgy. I think Cappy may be somewhere chuckling as I read it. It's called Not My Time. Not your time, people have insisted, every time death has sent assassins. When lifeguards dragged me from the deep end, where I thrashed in my just learned Australian crawl, eyes clamped shut against the chlorine's blurring blur, flailed to exhaustion, inhaled water, then face down on hot concrete, big hands forcing fountains out of my mouth, retch, gulp for air, light. Not your time, kid. Years later, a distracted driver looking right, turning left, screams of tires and twisting steel, shatter of glass, and then the paramedics rumbling up. No one alive in that little pickup, but later, not your time. Sometimes the assassins struck within. Hong Kong flu hallucinations, dragons trying to gobble me alive, a medication reaction mimicking cardiac arrhythmia, face down on a scuzzy movie theater carpet, an ovary blowing up in midnight lovemaking, its ripped cyst pumping potential death from my diaphragm to my pelvic floor, surgeon in the recovery room, not your time. Food poisoning from bad bacon, water poisoning from too much, from sluicing away my salts, telling the 911 operator I might be having a heart attack because I thought I might, and knew they'd roll the rural ambulance, and the driver, not your time. Sometimes the assassins were too big or too numerous to fight. My father sucking solace from the bourbon bottle, and my body, soul-squeezing glass ceiling, professional prejudices, love affairs that ate my heart raw. One day they'll win. But for now, by dumb luck, medical miracle, the fortuitous alignment of stars and cards, playing the hand as dealt, playing it as it lies, by what my great-grandmother called sheer mule cussedness, I'm still here, ready for my next allotment of breath, the next attempt on my life, and grateful every single day.
Do we have anybody else? Okay, so
I don't have copies of anything that she wrote. I was going to point out, which you already did, that she was a longtime editor of The Mirage, but also she was a regular at Hoppin' Grapes on the third Wednesday of every month for, what, 2 or 3 years? You remember she was there every time, and she had to drive a long ways to get there. So anything that had to do with poetry or writing, for miles and miles and miles from here, she was involved in.
thank you, Dick. Thanks. Okay, well, we're gonna